I remember the hype surrounding the original Spider-Man game that launched on the PS4, that it really felt like for the first time in a while, we were going to have a Spider-Man game that was really well done, that could give a game like Arkham Asylum and the Arkham kind of trilogy a run for its money. And it really felt like for the first time, we were going to get a really well-rounded Spider-Man game where we were going to get really great story, really great gameplay, and that it was going to be an incredible experience. And of course, now looking back, it was. And so hype was larger than ever for Spider-Man 2, and to see where they took the story and what was going to happen and how they were going to improve gameplay. But there was some anxiety surrounding it, that Spider-Man for the PS4 was one of the most beloved games of that console generation. And so with that, you always have the fear of, what if this thing doesn't deliver? What if they release this and it's bad? What if the story kind of falls on its face? What if the first game was just lightning in a bottle? And so we had all these anxieties kind of surrounding it, but every time they showed us something, it looked like it was going to be magical. And I'm happy to say, as someone who's played it, that it delivers. That Spider-Man 2 for the PS5 is everything I hoped it would be and more. It's one of the few sequels where I think it's actually better than the original and actually builds on it, and it was an incredible experience. And so if you're watching this video, I kind of want to dive into it and some of the ways it exceeded my expectations and some of the things it did really well. And to do that well, I'm just going to spoil things for you. So if you haven't played the game, or if you're concerned about spoilers, don't watch this video. All you need to know now up to this point is that I think Spider-Man 2 is incredible and you should go and buy it and play it. But I'm going to break that down a bit more. So just a full warning, we're about to dive into spoiler land, but let's talk about Spider-Man 2. So first off, let's talk about gameplay. And with the gameplay comes New York City. They expanded it and made it even bigger, and it's incredible. It's an incredibly fun world to swing through, that you can fast travel, but to be honest, the swinging is so fun and so magical that I don't know why you ever would. And even in the free roaming, they introduced lots of new things. And obviously, the largest one is the ability to use the webbing underneath Spider-Man's arms to glide. And that's incredibly fun. And it gives you all kinds of new versatile ways to move and interact with the city. And just like how in the last game the swinging was great, in this game it's great as well. And that's really what it comes down to in the gameplay, is that the gameplay from the first game created a great formula that they could build off of that also wasn't broken, which is kind of my frustration with IGN and them whining about the gameplay not really changing. So I'm like, the gameplay's fun. Like, I don't understand the incessant need in video game reviewers for every single game, if it's a sequel, to completely overhaul the gameplay. I think it's utterly ridiculous. I think they can introduce a few new concepts, but if the gameplay isn't broken, don't fix it. And so when it comes to combat as well, it's very much in the style of that Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight kind of style that the first game had, and they don't really change much of that. There's some new animations, there's some new abilities, but it really is the same combat that you had in Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and it's here again, and it's great. It's tons of fun. It doesn't get old to just jump around and see Spider-Man interact in this way that's very fluid and very flowy and very fun is incredible. I also personally like stealth, and so you still have the ability to sneak around and kind of do the stealth side of combat. And really every scenario that you jump into, it's kind of an open sandbox as to how you want to tackle it. And I find that gameplay really fun, that you can just dive in and go head first and just be like, I'm going to take everybody out. Or you can silently stealth around and take enemies out one by one, and kind of go the long way, but the safe way. And so the combat's great. And then again, too, having two Spider-Man, I was interested to see how this would work and if it would work well. Switching between Miles, switching between Peter. And I'm happy to say that it works really well. That the concept of switching between the Spider-Man is really great. It's really cool. They utilize it really well. And overall, gameplay-wise, this game is great. Again, the last two games were great as well. So this was never my concern for the game. That my concern was the story. But I'm happy to say that the story delivers. And so let's dive into some of the story pieces. So one of my largest concerns for this story was Kraven, because Kraven is one of those Spider-Man villains that can be done really well, or can be done really goofy and weird. And I'm happy to say that they did Kraven huge justice in this game, that he's a presence, he's a threatening force, that when he's on screen, you are terrified, that he's one of those villains who just seems like really powerful and really skilled and like a good challenge for Peter. And he enacts all of these different events in the game, that he's really the catalyst for a bunch of different things happening. And just to see them do his character justice, to see it done well, it's really exciting. It makes me even excited for that Kraven movie that's coming out, that I hope that actually is really good, because if we were to get this kind of Kraven on the big screen, I would be super pumped, because I think they did him really well. And also when it comes to just the characters in general, I was so happy to see that almost every single character in this game has a character arc. That who they were at the beginning of this game is not who they are at the end of this game. And it was just really great writing to see all of these different challenges and struggles the characters were going through, to be intertwined with each other, and to see them all resolve in different ways was just great. Because there's sometimes where you play games and who the characters are at the beginning is who they are at their end, and there's not really development. And in great storytelling and great story writing, what you see is that character development. And so I was really happy to see Peter change, to see Miles change, to see MJ change, to see Harry change, to see Norman Osborn change, all of these different characters going through their emotion, that it felt like this was a needed story that really did these characters justice, and that brought them to a different place than where they were at the beginning. And then, of course, one of the main people for that is Peter, and to see the kind of cycle he goes through being such a Boy Scout at the beginning and such a nice guy, to where he gets the symbiote, and to watch it slowly corrupt him, and he starts to do things that are out of character, and to see the symbiote start to even take over his body and do things that he's not even aware he's doing. Like that scene where he's like attacking MJ was one of the most tense things I've played in a video game in a long time, where I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but this feels like I'm actually terrified for her right now in this moment. That it was so well done, and to see his like addiction to the symbiote and how much he wants it and wants to hold on to that power, and it's turning him against his friends, and it's turning him against who he actually is as a person. I thought that was done incredibly well. And even how they just orchestrated how he got the symbiote, how he turned dark, how he was able to get rid of it and pass it on, all of that was done extremely well. And I was so happy that they were faithful to the source material, but also were able to do something new. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is Venom, because this was overall the biggest question mark to me. That I'm all for writers doing new things and telling stories in a new way, but I was very scared of what they were going to do with Venom. It just felt like if there was anything in this game that seemed like it had the potential to really derail it, or for them to drop the ball on, it was this, because they're doing something different. And so, of course, Venom turns out to be Harry in this game, and thankfully not Kraven, which was one of my biggest fears. And even up until then, when he was losing the symbiote, I was so worried that it was going to go to Kraven. Oh, that was such a fear I had, where I was like, please, like this would ruin Kraven's character arc and what he's going through, and it would ruin the Venom in this universe for me. But luckily that didn't happen. So they had Harry, they had him have the symbiote, essentially just to keep him alive and to keep him thriving. And you start to realize that Harry's able to kind of, almost like how Flash had that Agent Venom, that's kind of what Harry becomes. And that was really cool to see, and to see him and Peter working together, and that whole dynamic too, of like them starting this foundation together, and them wanting to change the world and like fulfill their childhood dreams. All of that was so believable. And oh man, the relationship between Harry and Peter in this game was so well done, because it could have felt rushed, it could have felt inauthentic, but instead it was the opposite, where they gave it so much time, and you loved both of these characters, and their relationship felt real. That when you started to see that tension between them, it sucked, where you felt bad for Peter, you felt bad for Harry, and you were just kind of watching this thing unfold. And so my biggest question though was like, okay, so Harry's got the symbiote, so how is that going to get to Peter? And it's just so cool how they were able to do that with Peter getting to the point of like almost dying, and then the symbiote going over to Peter to heal him, but then the symbiote falls in love essentially with Peter and won't go back to Harry, and that being like a huge tension point. And it's kind of really cool, because you see where they, oh man, Insomniac is so clearly such Spider-Man fans, because even you see them incorporating so many things even into this storyline, where they kind of take inspiration from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 in the best way, where they kind of take that whole idea that Peter has something that Harry needs to live, and Peter's not giving it to him. And obviously that would create a huge tension between the two of them, which it does. So you have that kind of Amazing Spider-Man 2 tension where Harry's like, dude, I need this back in order to live. But Peter isn't able to give it back, doesn't know how. But then eventually when he finds out how, doesn't want to, because the symbiote has corrupted him so much that he just wants to hold onto that power. And so it was really incredible to see. But then eventually Peter's like, okay, I got to get rid of this. Like, I'm becoming someone I don't want to be. I need to destroy this. I can't even give this back to Harry because what this symbiote is so evil that I just need to destroy it. And to see them have that conflict and to see the symbiote be able to break out of Peter doing that to it and then attach to Harry, and then he becomes Venom and they actually become united. I thought it was so incredibly well done. And even how they kind of brought in some Web of Shadows stuff was really cool, where Harry eventually is like, I'm going to turn the whole world into symbiotes, and he takes over the town. That was really cool, where I was like, oh man, this is kind of like Web of Shadows, which is really interesting. It was cool to see. But then they were also kind of incorporating elements from the classic Venom, where like that whole Eddie relationship that Peter had kind of became Harry, where Harry became resentful. He hated Peter, he hated Spider-Man, and so when he got the symbiote, it made total sense that it would corrupt him to the point that he would want at this stage to actually be enemies with Peter. And so I thought that that was incredibly well done. And then on top of that too, they introduced this whole idea for Norman Osborn wanting revenge on Spider-Man, that it's almost a reversal of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, where in Raimi's Spider-Man, Harry witnesses his dad die, and that's his motivation for that when he becomes the Green Goblin, that he wants to kill Peter. Where in this game it's actually different, where it ends with Harry dying, which also gives me so many questions of like, did any of the symbiotes survive? Because it didn't seem like it, because Carnage would be really cool to see in this universe. I don't know if they'll do that again. We'll have to wait and see, but it was cool to see Harry die, and Norman to now see Spider-Man as this villain who like killed his kid and who he needs to exact revenge on, really setting up the third game. That I think it's really evident and really obvious that Norman is going to use the Goblin Serum to turn himself into Green Goblin to exact revenge on Peter, that he's going to find out Peter is Spider-Man, he's going to take MJ and try to kill her, like all these different things. It gets me really excited. And so overall, I was very nervous about Venom and Harry and how it was going to be done, because it could be done really poorly. Like, for example, the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon did it really poorly. I hated when they made Harry Venom in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon. And so I was like, please don't be like this. Please don't rush it. Please don't like it be the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where their relationship just feels too rushed and forced, and I don't really feel anything when Harry turns. That they solved all those things. They did it incredibly well. And speaking of Ultimate Spider-Man, this was one of the coolest moments where I was like, oh my goodness, I am so pumped for this. That this was so cool. That when Harry eventually turns into Venom, that you actually got to control him for that beginning part and like exact your rage on all of these soldiers was so cool, because it was kind of a wink to that Ultimate Spider-Man game, and that was really fun and really cool for them to throw in. But yeah, overall, Venom was done incredibly well, and I was so happy with what Insomniac did with that character. So in conclusion, man, I really think Spider-Man 2 far exceeded my expectations. That it took all the things the first game of Miles Morales did well, and it did it even better. I think this game is a masterpiece. I think this game is actually the best Spider-Man game of all time. That even with how great the PS4 one was, I have so much nostalgia for the like PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game, the one that had Venom in it, that I love that game so much, and it was so monumental to me as a gamer and even as a Spider-Man fan, that was still my number one. But I actually think that this game may have taken that spot because it was so well done. The characters, the acting, the storytelling, the soundtrack, the gameplay was so incredible. I literally have no complaints. The only thing I still don't like is like all of the, I don't know, the nerdy side of Peter, where they make you have to do these puzzles. I just am not a fan of like puzzle video games, so that to me has always been the slog. I was hoping that they would have less of that in this game, because it really felt like the worst part of the first Spider-Man game, but they have more of it, and they do it in a way that's different and more unique than the first one. But it still was my least favorite part. That I think if I had any complaint, that's it. And outside of that, this game is like perfection. It's a masterpiece. Like, it really is everything I wanted it to be and more. And so I want to know what you guys think. Head down to the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts. Did you enjoy this game? Did the Harry Venom situation and storyline work for you? Did you enjoy Craven? Did you enjoy watching Peter become like Bully Maguire-esque? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that junk, and we will see you guys in the next one.